Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are now live. It's going to take a minute or two for it to pop up on the screen. But once it does, we're going to give some salams and we're going to be ready. Assalamu alaikum for those that are, excuse me, for those that are joining. Assalamu alaikum. Please give salams. Assalamu alaikum. Please share and give salams. Share and give salams. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for joining. Please share and give salams. Assalamu alaikum, Jamila. Assalamu alaikum, Dinda. Assalamu alaikum, Munaza. Assalamu alaikum, Ebony. How are you? Assalamu alaikum, Yasmin, Daoud, Medina, Stacy. Nice to see all of you guys. Continue to give salam. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast episode, Navigating Toxic Relationships. Alhamdulillah. We're going to talk about this topic. We can't wait. Narcissism part 2. We're going to go a little bit beyond that. But this is Narcissism part 2. You guys have asked and we are delivering. Assalamu alaikum, Hassam and Musaima and Sheila and Jenna. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. Please do me a favor and share this podcast. If you want to know one way that you can contribute back to the Dope Muslim Women podcast, if you share our lives, it is a huge contribution. So go ahead and share. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, inshallah. All right, alhamdulillah. We are going to open up. Is somebody playing me? Okay, cool. All right, welcome, guys. This is your girl, your host, Sabria Mills, and welcome to Navigating Toxic Relationships. I am humbly here and joined with my beloved co-host. She is back again, co-host / co-guest, Ziada Dean. Mashallah, she is an entrepreneur, longtime entrepreneur, hairstylist extraordinaire. She's an author. She, content creator, and the list goes on. She does so many things for the community, and she really is about empowerment and upliftment of Black women and allowing them to own the beauty of their hair. So welcome, Ziada Dean. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. I am honored to be here again as your co-host for the Dope Muslim Woman podcast and the topic that we'll be speaking about. And yes, I'm a natural hairstylist, owner of Naturally Chic Hair Salon, and author of More Choices, Less Stress. And you can pre-order the book as well as the mugs that celebrate your beautiful natural hair at www.hairbyziada.com.
You better put that plug in. Ziada, your voice is a little low, just so you know. So just next time, elevate it just a little bit. But we heard you.
Okay. Yes.
All right. And I am super humbled, mashallah, because I am joined once again with my brother. Those many of you that have been with the Dope Muslim Woman podcast for a while have raved about his episode because he opened up season 2 with a bang. So I'm going to introduce him. My brother, he's an owner of Align and Defy, which is an online platform for counseling and coaching, mental health counseling coaching. He is a mental health consultant. He's trained in cognitive behavior therapy.
Did we lose him?
Did we lose him? Subhanallah. Okay, we lost him for a second, but I'm sure he'll be right back on. This brother is a graduate of Columbia University. He's absolutely amazing, subhanAllah. So we are happy to have Brother Nasir Al-Amin, and I'm sure he'll be with us in just a second. Just give him a second to come on. But as we open up this topic, we know that last Monday we had a topic, Ziada, about, you were in the chat, with our brother Gareth and Brother Khalil Ismail about narcissism.
Right.
And yeah, so that was interesting. We got the male's perspective. We had different perspectives on that. And a lot of people felt, different ways about the episode. So we're bringing back a different perspective in so that we can get a different voice around this topic. So alhamdulillah for that. So just before we even get into it, Ziada, what were some of your authentic thoughts about the episode we did last Monday?
I thought that Khalil for sure gave a very, his perspective was, it seemed like it was more of a neutral perspective. I felt like he really voiced how a lot of women experience some of these relationships from their point of view, because he works at a shelter. So he has seen the lasting effects of what toxic relationships can do to women. So I appreciated his perspective. Brother Gareth gave a clinical background. I felt sometimes, this is my opinion. I felt he was just a little judgy, but at the same time, he was coming from his point of view. So I can't say that he was being judgmental to a certain extent because he was coming from a clinical view where some of the cases that he also deals with on a daily basis as well. So I thought it was a balanced viewpoint, especially I felt like Khalil really voiced how a lot of women experience these toxic relationships and what the lasting effects can have on women when they come out of these situations, in particular, having to go to a shelter or things of that nature to seek refuge and give some tools. So I think for this conversation, that would be great, if we could give tools on how you can navigate through these relationships and support also.
Absolutely. And Brother Nasir, we did officially introduce you, but welcome to the show, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Apologies for my connection.
Yeah.
Inshallah, we won't have any more issues.
Inshallah. So just to preface it, Brother Nasir is in Kuwait right now. So he is not in the States. He is in a totally different time zone right now. So mashallah, we're going to be patient with him and hopefully everything works out all right. All right, brother. So we are talking a little bit about this idea of toxic relationships. So I wanted to start from the beginning. Ziada, I wanted to start with you. And I just want to ask, is my voice clear? I know you said it was a little choppy.
No, yours is good. Is mine? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay. You're good. Okay. So Ziada, I want to really start with you and talking a little bit about, we've been talking about this idea of narcissistic behavior, identifying from the jump, when an individual perhaps isn't good for you. It was interesting to hear, the perspective last Monday about, women, just their propensity to choose wrong. So you're a woman, subhanAllah. I wanted to just ask you from a woman's perspective, because I think that's really important. Can you talk a little bit about some of those red flags, some of those warning signs that you can identify? You can give a little context to your personal situation of toxicity and even maybe narcissism prior to engaging in a relationship.
Sure, absolutely. I think like when he spoke about that we typically as women choose wrong for the certain factors that we choose men. I think like with his preference to meaning like for some of us that we may not we may ignore some of the signs because I think that we think that it may be coming from a place of insecurity or that they just need reassurance. But I think in my particular situation, my last marriage, what I ignored the most was I remember they had an issue with how I didn't respond to text messages. I'm a hairstylist, so oftentimes I'm in between clients, so I really can't always respond at a so-called timely manner because I'm tending to my clients. So they really had an issue with me like not responding to text messages and would, feel as though, will this one reach out to you or, things like that. And at first, I actually took it back to some of my girlfriends and I asked them, I said, this doesn't feel right, and I'm not used to experiencing this in previous relationships. So, they were like, well, just she probably just needs reassurance and things of that nature. And so what I'll say from that is that now moving forward, I've learned to really trust my intuition and my gut and really understand that when your body responds to someone, that is, Allah really letting you know that this is something that does not feel good to you. And it's something that you should really pay attention to. And so I think, as women, sometimes as human beings, period, because it's not just women, as human beings, period, oftentimes we can try to see the positive in everything and not try to hone on the negative because we don't want to seem as though we're being judgmental or that we're being too harsh, or especially as women that we just want to find an excuse not to be in a relationship with someone, And so I think we can be forgiving because we are nurturing in nature. And so with that could translate in how we respond to others in relationships.
Absolutely. SubhanAllah. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. Brother Nasir, I want to bring you in just as a perspective on a professional side. What are some quick ways women or men can identify signs of toxicity in an individual before we even talk about like a full committed relationship? Oh, am I losing my brother? Oh my gosh. SubhanAllah.
his screen kind of froze.
Oh, there you go. Brother Nasir? Okay. All right, you guys, subhanAllah. So we're going to let Brother Nasir's sort of connection kind of catch up with him, inshallah. Now, Ziada, I did want to just sort of stay with it.
Oh.
Are you there, brother?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, a little bit. Are you there? Okay. All right. Okay, so Ziada, I want to just stay there for a minute because you said when your body responds.
Yes.
Now, you know, you and I had a conversation about this, and I think this is really important. Not all of us as women, or maybe men, are in tune with our bodies like that. And I know that, you know, perhaps, you know, there may be alarming things like, you know, anxiety or things like that, but maybe it's real subtle. Are there other sort of red flags that we want to be looking out for if we're not as in tune with our actual body and those feelings?
I would say, you know, definitely the red flags could be that someone is trying to isolate you from your friends or make you feel guilty that you are, like, you know, wanting to be with your friends.
Am I clear? You guys?
No.
Okay, if I'm not clear,
Yeah, I'm going to remove you from the stream so you can troubleshoot, and just give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you back in the studio. There we go. Okay. Sorry, Ziada, go ahead.
It's okay. I was saying that I think some of the warning signs also is if someone like isolates you, tries to isolate you from your friends or your family, or make you feel guilty for the relationships that you've had before them, you know, because everyone, when you get into a relationship, you've had a life before this person. And so when someone is trying to control who you were when they met you and change it to what their idea of you should be, is definitely a red flag. Or their tone towards you can change depending upon, like, when you get into an argument with them, you can see whether or not their tone changes with you, or when you ask things of them and they actually volunteer and want to do it, but then when they don't maybe complete the projects and they may get an attitude with you that they basically have, you know, they volunteered for the project, but they make it seem as though you are asking too much of them. But a lot of times, you know, I think the warning signs for, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about a woman's intuition, is very real. You know, that our body really signals to us what is healthy for us and what isn't. You know, and I think for me, I'm 43 now, and it took me this last relationship, this last marriage, to really, really hone into my intuition, and I went through therapy for one. My therapist is amazing. And what she told me was that some of the signs that you ignored was because you didn't trust yourself. So if you don't trust yourself as an individual, as a human being, you will miss some things because you think you'll second guess yourself because you don't trust yourself. You don't trust that you make great decisions for your life and for yourself. And so once you begin to really trust who you are inside and understand that you really have guided with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help your life through this world, that you should be able to trust yourself and know that you are making the right decision. So I think that's really important, understanding and trusting who you are, really trusting your own decisions that you make.
Absolutely, 100%. Hey, Brother Nasir, are you back?
Mm-hmm.
Can't hear you. SubhanAllah, we can't hear you, Brother Nasir. All right, mashallah. We are having a lot of technical difficulties with Brother Nasir. Again, he is all the way in Kuwait, mashallah. It's about 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, and we are not having a lot of luck with hearing him right now, technical difficulties. But Brother Nasir, we can't hear you, so you may want to kind of try it again. I'm sorry. No. Yeah, can't hear you, brother. All right, so we're going to move right along with this concept because I think it wasn't addressed when it comes to, okay, let's talk about narcissism for a quick moment. because and this is just from a real world perspective, right? So we want to just preface this. Do you go to your mental health professionals for the real classic DSMV? We just trying to talk about the real, okay? So one of the things that someone brought up that was really important was this aspect of love bomb. Like there's a lot of traits you mentioned that may not necessarily be a narcissist, but it may just be someone that's toxic. But there is a lot that goes into sometimes people's covering up of who they truly are with their charisma and their swag or whatever you want to call it, and just being charming. But this concept of love bombing, I wanted to start here for a minute. We understand that as sort of coming off the rip. I see this quite often. And I always say that when I was younger, I totally thought it was like so sweet. Like, oh my gosh, he's just all into me. Yeah. But this love bombing really quick off the rip, over indulging the woman in compliments and all that. Can you talk us through? And was that your experience at all?
It was more or less like they were like a knight in shining armor, honestly. So it is definitely love bombing. So everything that the definition is about love bombing is definitely what I experienced. They were there for anything that I ever asked for. They shower you with gifts, compliments. Like the first time, they'll tell you very fast that they're in love with you. And then if, my term is always, that the person that was truly like my knight in shining armor turned into my worst nightmare. A month into the marriage is when it changed the whole. This is the person who said that they would never curse and things of like that nature, and then began to curse me out and just certain things like that. So it just all of a sudden the kindness just shifted, and it was like, who is this person that I'm with? Like, I didn't know who they were. The person that they presented for almost a year really was someone that was thoughtful, kind. Like I said, I saw some of the signs of like the text messages and things like that, but it wasn't until the marriage began where it really intensified about like trying to control, like, when I would talk to my friends and things like that, and trying to make me feel guilty when I would talk to my friends, and, like tell me that I'm not showing them attention, and those things that just shifted drastically. So the love bombing is very real. The person that loves you and showers you.
A whole year, Ziada? You said a whole year of this before they flip?
A whole year.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories, but I mean, that's insane. Nasir, Assalamu alaikum.
So I'm going to just jump right in.
Hey, there you go. What's up? All right, just jump right in, brother. We're talking about some of the signs early on of toxic relationship. Go ahead.
So the first thing I would say is, I acknowledge that the wording that we're using is toxic, right? Toxic relationships. But I would encourage us to strategically shift the wording to unhelpful or helpful. And the reason why I'm saying that is to keep in the mind being helpful, because that is a technique that I'll share later, if the internet allows, that you can always use to measure if what other is doing is in line with your goals, your values, and your purpose. Now, I'm reading faces. Am I choppy or I'm coming through clear?
You're good. Keep going, bro. You're good.
Okay, excellent. So what I would say is, one of the things that I do with clients initially is to sit down and address what your goals are, right? What are your goals, your values, and your purpose? And the reason why you do that is that becomes the litmus test for you to determine or assess the other individual's actions, what they think, feel, say, and do in alignments, in accordance to what goals, your values, and purpose are. So does his actions, what he says, his feelings, does it mobilize you or immobilize you? And that comes the critical thing. That's one point, and that's a technique. And again, I can go further into that. But the other point, and I'll say it briefly, I have a full podcast on it, is the strategy of making sure before you get married that you don't move the goalpost. And what I mean by that is, when you meet someone, The goal is to discern if there's compatibility or not. The goal isn't necessarily marriage, right? Marriage is a byproduct of there being compatibility, right? And so often what happens is when love bombing happens or the emotions get in it, we move the goalpost to we got to get married, right? Versus the discerning if there's compatibility or not. So the goalpost got moved. And how this helps is also in the end. So I'm sitting down with you and we're having a coffee and I ask you about brother Abdullah, and you tell me, well, it didn't work out. And so when you say it didn't work out, what you are telling me is we're not getting married. And then there's that feeling of sadness and unfortunately maybe potentially depression about that. And that's the thinking with it. But what I would suggest in this kind of belief that I'm sharing with you is it actually worked out. Because if the goal in the beginning was to discern compatibility, then you shouldn't, I don't want to say you shouldn't, but if in the beginning is to discern compatibility, and whether it's a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, if you find out before marriage that we're not compatible, then it worked out.
Right.
Your criteria is actually good criteria. That doesn't mean you can't perfect it, right? But your criteria allows you to discern that this brother is not compatible with me, and or compatible towards my goals, my values, and my purpose. And the beautiful thing about that, that puts ownership and the power back on you. Do I have my goals aligned? Do I have my goals in order? Am I moving and working with people who are in alignment with my goals, or am I not? And if not, what is that costing me? I heard the tail end of what you were saying, and that in this situation for, I think, a year, and apologize me, I didn't hear. But one of the things, maybe I won't speak for this situation because I didn't hear it. But one of the things that I encourage clients to always do is ask yourself, what is the cost? What is this costing me mentally, emotionally, physically? Right? Because sometimes the trauma we experience, it shows itself in our bodies.
Absolutely.
So what is this costing me? Right? And then asking yourself, if JoJo and Ezel saying that they love you, do you want to pay the cost for that love? If so, then you need to then shift to how can I accept this narcissistic behavior, this unhelpful behavior without upsetting myself, right? Because I've already decided that I'm staying in this, that it's worth it to me. I'll stop there because I
But
feel like
Nasir,
I was
yeah, I want to
just...
chime into this point because I think it's important when we talk about love bombing. You hear me, right, bro?
I do.
You hear me? Okay, cool. So when we talk about love bombing, it's the way that it's crafted, it really does play on the emotions of the woman. So I think what you're saying, which is really ideal, that woman has to really be really emotionally grounded and emotionally intelligent, because she's, at the end of the day, you know, could be vulnerable, susceptible to that level of attention, right? Or that level of love bombing, or whatever you want to classify it. So, you know, for a woman that may not be in that place of being able to say, okay, I'm just checking out if you're compatible, we ain't moving. What are some other ways in which she could really sort of first of all, how can she tap into that? And second of all, what are some other ways she can really identify these red flags if she really can't like she's not really in tune with her goals and her values and all that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a number of things. One, always remember that feelings are valid. Emotions are always valid, right? So one of the things for your audience to always remember and maybe write down and keep close to them is emotions are always valid. The thinking, though, that underpins it may not be accurate. right? So according to the model that I work from is that the thinking influences the emotions. And so whenever you're getting an emotion that isn't helpful for you, how is it not helpful? Because it doesn't allow you to move towards your goals, your values, and your purpose. So for example, depression isn't helpful. Sadness is, right? If you go through a divorce, it's understandable to feel sadness. But depression doesn't allow you to get out of bed. It doesn't allow you to go to work. It doesn't allow you to take after your kids. It doesn't allow you to take care of yourself, right? So that's unhelpful. That's why I said to strategically shift the terminology in the beginning from toxic to helpful and unhelpful, so that we begin the framework of always asking ourselves, is this helpful for me? So when I get this bombardment of love and all of these actions, what my experience has been working with sisters, majority of my clients are sisters, is that it's never 100%.
That's
A
true.
lot of times the love bombing comes after the turmoil. So I've been emotionally distant from you. I've been patronizing. Um, well, I don't want to say intentionally, but I haven't listened to some of the concerns that you had. And so there's been emotional distress there. And I've ignored it for some time. And then I come back with a vacation. Let's go somewhere. After I know that you've made this same concern over and over and over again, hey, let's go for a trip. Let's go for a vacation. And then later on, when you're in a conversation with me, is well, I've always taken her on vacations. I don't know what her issue is, right? So my point is, oh, I saw eyes light up. I think am I on to something here?
No, go ahead.
So my point is, understand accept all emotions, right? On one day, if you're feeling that something isn't right, that you feel down and depressed, right? Then that's valid. Now check what is the thinking that is underpinning that, right? So listen to that just as you listen to the feeling you have when you're taking on this extravagant vacation as well. And so with that, we don't have to say that it's purely logical. We're listening to our emotions and we don't like how we feel once we start seeing the cycle. Because it's typically a cycle. It's the abuse, then it's the love bombing, it's the vacation, it's the showering, then it's back to the abuse and the trauma. And so that cycle, right? And so with the clients that I have that are actually going through this, are going through this and have gone through this, what I share with them is this. The first thing to do is work on you.
Yeah.
How do you learn how to not upset yourself as you go through these cycles? Right? So as you go through each cycle, how do I get myself mentally and emotionally in the space, in the best space to discern what's best for me? Right? Because not everybody's going to leave.
Right.
Right? And so if you're not going to leave, and a part of this, a side note, maybe if we have time now, or maybe we can talk about another podcast, is a part of the issue is the community. The community helps create arrogant, narcissistic individuals because men know, unfortunately, and I don't agree with this, men know that they know that the community makes it more difficult for women who are divorced. Right?
That part.
So, unfortunately, right. So unfortunately, some men take advantage of that. Right. And for the brothers, this is strictly to the brothers. The brothers know, look, if you're playing a game and you're up by 20, then you start doing no look passes around the back. But when the game is tied up at the end of the game, fourth quarter, and Curry is your opponent, you ain't doing around the back.
Right.
Right.
You understood that,
you
Ziara?
locked in.
Okay.
So you locked in. So same thing with the community in this issue of divorce. So I'm sorry I went off here. My point is, how do you get in the best space you can be in, not to fix him?
Right.
I don't encourage anyone trying to fix anybody, and I don't encourage you going into a relationship trying to change or fix somebody. That should be a part of your criteria. So technique you can do is after the relationship ends or the marriage ends, immediately go to journaling and writing down the pros and the cons so that you don't romanticize this after Boo Boo is gone. Well, I'm sorry, or Habibti or Habibi or whatever it is. After that person is gone, then we romanticize. Then we start making it out to be everything that it wasn't. Right?
Wait a minute, Nasir, can I stop? Nasir, can I stop you here? I'm sorry. What do you mean by that? When you say don't romanticize it?
Stop. This is your show.
You always do. Listen to the question, brother. So, no, what do you mean by that, though? When you say romanticize, huh?
I'm sorry, it's 2 a.m.
Okay, I'm sorry, brother. So what do you mean by that? Break that down when you say don't romanticize it. Does he hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't romanticize. The reality is, like I said, there were cycles. So there were cycles in which things were challenging. There was times when you were alone. There was times when you were with the kids and he never helped out. There was times when you wanted to go out with your friends, but he kept calling you and kept calling you. Where are you at? Where are you at? When you had your only your moment of time to be out and away from the kids. Those are the times that you don't want to romanticize. The times when you spoke to him and you mentioned to him, look, when you say this to me, I don't like it. It makes I start feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. And that's important, though. I use that language important. We don't want to ever, and this is another technique, change the language from what he did made me feel this way.
Right.
Right. The reality is it's an influence, but the greater influence is a perception you have when he does the things that are dysfunctional. Right. And that's not to excuse what he's doing at all. But it empowers you to make sure that you have the perspective and the evaluation, the proper evaluation, because when you don't have the proper evaluation, you need to know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do we know that? When you start hearing the wording that there's something wrong with me. Right? When you start hearing there's something wrong with me because of his behavior, what you're saying is, I caused his behavior. Reality is, you didn't cause his behavior. His perception of you, his perception of his own insecurities led him to think, feel, and act in a certain way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Nasir. I wanted to bring Ziada back in a little bit. I know you shared the beginning of the warning signs, but at what point did you really identify that this relationship was completely self-serving for the other individual? It was not a relationship that was serving you. What were some of those?
I think the point that you made was so on point, actually. When he spoke about, Nasir spoke about journaling and really understanding and noticing how you are beginning to think that it's you, right? That you are beginning to feel as though you are the problem for why he's behaving this way. And so I think for me, the biggest turning point for me was that I took 10 years, like from my first marriage to this marriage, to even get remarried, right? And I went through a lot of healing and a lot of growth. And the one thing that I kept telling, that my ex-husband was that you're not going to break me. I fought too hard to be the woman that stands before you. And I felt myself dying, literally. I felt everything that I fought for dying inside of me. And I refused to do that again. I knew that that is not who I wanted to show up in this world anymore. And so that turning point for me was when I realized, like Nasir said, that it's not self-serving anymore. When something doesn't serve your soul and what your obligations to your Lord first and foremost is all forgiving and most merciful. And those were the things that I would reiterate. If you yourself are asking for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're asking for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be merciful towards you. Therefore, you are supposed to be that way to mankind. And not only that, to your mate. And if you can't offer that to them, the things that you beg out to your Lord, therefore, this is something that I can't do, and I also, have made it a point that my life is not just for me. I live my life because, my mother passed when I was really young. And my goal is for me to see my mother again in Jennifer, those, inshallah ta'ala. So the way that I treat people is the way, like my mother raised me. You treat people the way that you want to be treated, you know? And I think the biggest thing for me, like you said, was when I saw the shift that this is becoming more and more toxic, like every instance is an argument. And I began to say, well, today was a good day. You should never, ever say, of all the days, like every day you judge. Today was a good day. Okay, yesterday wasn't good. Today was a better day. Once you begin to see those patterns that you have to assess the what if today was a great day, that is not healthy, you know, and it does it, and the, how it is making you, not even how it's making you feel, but how your spirit is responding to it. If you're feeling constant sadness and you feel entrapped, and like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about, you know, that oppression is worse than death. And what he is speaking about is when you are oppressive to someone, your actions, your tone, everything toward them, it really is like a physical death, because you are trying to take their spirit from them, you know. And I think what helped me also was that I watched the Red Table Talk, honestly, about narcissism. And the one thing that the therapist said was that do not forgive a narcissist. Don't let them back into your life. Don't listen to the apologies and things like that. They may be sympathetic to a certain extent, but really it's self-serving for them, because they get gratification when someone is needing of them. If you don't need them anymore, then they feel as though there's nothing for them to do for you anymore. So they put you on the shelf and leave you there, and then they continue to move forward. So for me, I just wanted to, I knew that I have a son, and I have a son that I'm raising to respect me and respect women. And I could not stay in a relationship where I was not being respected. And I could not tell my son that you have to respect me, and someone that I'm in a relationship is not doing the same. So it was something that I felt like I want to show up in the world authentically who I am, and this is not serving me anymore.
Absolutely. Okay, Brother Nasir, sounds familiar?
Yeah, if you don't mind, can I just
Please come
make
in.
a few points off of what you said?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I heard was beliefs, right? What I heard was you're not going to me. That's a belief that is how you feel, and then the actions you're going to take. So then that goes back to what I was saying before in terms of it's empowering when you take ownership for what you think, feel, say, and do. Right? That he doesn't make me feel this way, right? Because he can do the same thing, but after you change your state of mind, right? Again, not approving what he does, but after you change your frame of mind, how you perceive and evaluate the situation, it can influence how you feel and then influence the actions you take, right? And that's the emotional responsibility. The other part that I would mention that I think is important is the labeling piece. Or actually, let me not say that right now. The first thing I would say that's most important while I have connection is the unconditional self-acceptance. I can't tell you how often I hear in sessions about this questioning of self-worth. So if it's anything that you take from what I'm saying today, it's unconditional self-acceptance. That I love me and accept me despite what others think, feel, say, and do. Period.
I agree.
Like my loving me, accepting me is not dependent on the validation and acceptance of someone else.
Absolutely.
Right? And when we set up conditions for our own acceptance, that's when you get on that emotional roller coaster. Right? You get on that emotional roller coaster because you got different conditions. So in this cycle, he's meeting your conditions. When you get in the cycle and he's not meeting your conditions, you start hating yourself and downing yourself. Right? But when he is meeting the conditions, he is giving you the acceptance, you are getting the validation, you venerate, you esteem yourself, you think high of yourself. But as soon as he goes in the next cycle, you start thinking down. You're back in an emotional roller coaster. You put your emotional destiny in his hands. I'm suggesting you take it back by not having any conditions to your self-acceptance.
Right.
So that's
Absolutely.
the critical piece.
I agree.
Critical. And that's in your hands.
Absolutely.
And one last point I'll just say is the understanding that I can understand that you hurt people because you were victimized as a teenager or a child. Your
Okay.
parents saw it, so they did the same to you. I can understand that. I can accept that. Meaning I accept that. I don't endorse it. I don't approve of it, but it is the reality. I acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But with all
Absolutely.
that said, I can also choose that I'm not being with
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Right.
right? So
Right.
And
I
that's where
understand, I
self-love comes
accept,
in.
but I also choose not to be with you,
Absolutely.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
right?
So, right. So, Brother Nasir, I think that's powerful. And
I
thank you,
can love you
Ziada.
from afar.
Right. Ziada, thank you so much for sharing. I
Oh,
appreciate
absolutely.
you sharing. Brother Nasir, you said some powerful things. I want to talk about the release process. So, mashallah, a lot of us, kind of learn the hard way. We go through these relationships. We realize that it's not serving us, as Ziada shared so eloquently. The process of releasing from that is a real deal process. What are some tools we can tap into, and how should we be sort of framing our mindsets as we sort of release from a toxic, or what did you say, non-helpful relationship?
I wish I read lips.
Okay, you didn't hear any of that?
I wish I did.
Okay.
I,
Okay, so how do we release from a toxic
I wish I
relationship?
did the telepathy thing. Like,
Get back.
say it one more time, please.
How do we release from a toxic relationship?
Healing from a toxic relationship?
Release.
Releasing,
Release.
releasing.
Release. Letting go.
Releasing.
Hmm.
Releasing. Release. Oh, I like it. Releasing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, letting go.
So I think so. If you mean by first, please give me a thumbs up if I'm clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. A little, yeah, you're good.
Okay. So in terms of releasing, if you mean breaking away, then I think again we go back to validating our own emotions, what we feel, right, and not putting that to the side. It's real, right? So again, do I want to continue to feel this? Right? That feeling is never good. And when it's prolonged over time, after time after time, year after year, month after month, that's it right there. But the thing that oftentimes keeps us in it is the fear of one, the shame of the community, or two, the misbelief that no one will ever want someone who's a divorcee and or a divorcee with children, right? That's an unhealthy, I'm sorry, an unhelpful belief, which is really factual. It is difficult. But we all know people who were previously married that have children that got remarried. But that
Absolutely.
fear keeps us in it. So that's why we have to always reassess our thinking. And the thing that lets us know to check our thinking is our feeling. That's why we can never dismiss how we feel. It's critical to be in tune with your feelings. They're valid. And if anyone is trying to deny your feelings and change your feelings, that in and of itself is a sign.
Mm-hmm.
So if you meant by releasing, leaving, that's what I would say. If you mean release after you have already left, then I think you have to do the thing that I mentioned in terms of the journaling, right? Start doing the journaling, get a real assessment of the pros and cons of the relationship. Don't romanticize it. Then take stock of yourself. What is your conditional or unconditional self acceptance at? How do you talk to yourself about yourself? Are there labels when you talk to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's important to go down the line of labels. This is why I also wanted us to kind of step away from narcissistic, right? Because if you tell somebody you're a narcissist or you tell somebody you're a jerk, that doesn't give them anything to walk away and work on,
Sure.
right? But if
Okay.
I tell you your communication skills is poor and I don't like it, you need to stop, that gives them something to walk away with and work on. And then for when they come back, I can measure. But telling them, look, you a jerk, what's a jerk to them and a jerk to them is different, right? So it's important that labels we don't engage in, because you go down the label hole, it'll take you somewhere you don't want to go. So avoid labels with yourself, others, or life conditions. It's just not helpful. We come back to this helpful thing. And the other two things that I would say in terms of releasing, and I'll leave it with you in the comments, it's a technique called the help technique. This is why I said the strategy of changing the words. The help technique stands for hard evidence for those that are logical, right? That are more cerebral. That's the hard evidence. The L is for logic, right? And the P stands for purposeful, useful, right? And the other P stands for personally owned. And so what I like to do is focus people on the P. And by the P, what I mean is what I've been saying the whole time is what the person is doing, what he thinks, feels, says, and does. What I think, feel, say, and do, is it purposeful towards my goals, my values, and my purpose? If not, I need to do the opposite. The other P is very important, which is personally owned. Because a lot of times we walk around with inherited beliefs that don't serve us. And so inherited beliefs are those beliefs that go questioned, right? We get it from our family, we get it from society, we get it from music, we get it from culture. It's, you know, you feel a certain way, you get in the car, you drive to work for an hour, you listen to a certain CD, you break up. Okay, I got it for you. Some of you might be too young to understand this. You break up and then you put on Mary J. Blige or Mariah Carey, you might cry before you get to work. But you left the house saying he's a jerk. I can't wait for him to pack his stuff and get out.
It depends on what Mary album, though.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Ziada. They're trying to throw a shot.
Huh?
I said it depends on what Mary album, you know, because some of them albums, she definitely make you want to leave her.
You put Luther and turning back around and you're not going to work. So what I mean is the beliefs, the stream of thinking of culture, we take those beliefs in and we don't question it. So it's important for us to question the inherited beliefs. So when the community has these inherited beliefs about divorcees, we question that, right? When a man doesn't have the spine, let me not say that, when a man doesn't have the fortitude to stand up to his mother in the defense of his wife, right? That's an inherited belief that, I have to show a certain respect or regard, and that Jenna's at the foot of my mother. Yeah, but you also have responsibility to your wife. Right. But an inherited belief that you're not questioning says that you should think about this dynamic a certain way. So my point is that. So that's a technique that someone can walk away and use. Look for, is this what I'm thinking, feeling, saying, and doing post-divorce, post-relationship thing? Is it purposeful? Does it move me towards my goals? And if I don't have my goals in line, then I need to.
Yeah. Right.
I have to.
Right.
And then am I questioning those beliefs that I have?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Brother Nasir, for breaking that down. You gave us a lot of very clear techniques with that. Now, Ziada, subhanAllah, thank you for, sharing a bit of your story and navigating through that toxic. You obviously realized it. You made some changes. What are some things that you realized as you navigated out of the relationship? What are some things that you realized as far as in regards to your intention to choose differently next time around? What are some things that you say, okay, this is absolutely going to be my criteria?
Well, I think like what Brother Nasir spoke on about, like just really radical self-love, right? Really never, ever questioning your worth who you are, how you want to represent yourself in this world. I think that is really, it's almost like, for me, like he spoke about with the community. I've never really, like, after my first marriage, I never really was concerned with how the community looked at me. After, if it's this is a choice that I knew I had to make, because I loved myself, and that's why their marriage ended, because I loved myself and I love who I am, and I was no longer willing to make any apologies for who I was and how I was showing up. And I was not going to allow someone to give me a different narrative of who I was. I know who I am. And so once you really come into, for me, like, I've definitely do the journaling, counseling for sure. Therapy really helped me a lot. Speaking to my counselor and really learning to trust myself. And so now more than ever, I really do trust myself. I trust the decisions that I make. I take it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I pray about it. And I have guided my life afterwards, and it feels good to really, not just feels good, but it's empowering. You bring back the power that you felt was taken from you, and you empower yourself with, like we spoke about, radical self-love, understanding that the choices that you make are for you. And if you have children, and at the end of the day, if you feel as though it is pleasing to you and your Lord, that is what's most important. Not what other people feel, how many other people may say things about you, things of that nature. And alhamdulillah, I have a beautiful sister circle who are, they rally around me. I have a beautiful family who are like, okay, that's okay, Ziada. Listen, we love you. You made the right choice. You loved yourself. We're going to love you through it. And from this point forward, I'll never, ever, second guess myself. I won't question, my what I feel inside of me. I listen to my intuition more than I've ever done in my life. And, I felt like Allah really spoke to me and said, listen, I'm going to give you this opportunity, and you are going to have to really focus on your goals, like Brother Nasir spoke about. Do a vision board, do your goals, do your journaling, and really, really, really work through your goals that you have for yourself. Because once you begin to start accomplishing your goals that you have set forth for yourself, there's a feeling of pride that you feel that I have accomplished these goals that I've set for my life. And you begin to see the trajectory of where you are putting your life, right? And so you really begin to believe in yourself, and you love how you have manifested your life. Your visions, your thoughts are manifesting right before your eyes. And so I believe what Brother Nasir spoke about your goals is very important. We even coming into relationships, holding on to those goals that you have set for yourself and not allowing someone else's ideas of what they feel as though your goals should be to change what you feel you should be doing. Like really understanding, like he said, not apologizing for the love that you have for yourself and how you view yourself. So moving forward, I just trust myself now. I believe in me. I love myself radically. I love every aspect of who I am. I love the woman that I am and how I represent in this world.
Gotta go ahead. And I love you too,
I love
subhanAllah.
you too.
Listen, because we're kind of coming to an end here, I want to bring in some questions from the audience. I didn't really engage them yet. So one of the questions is, what do you tell someone that has generational hurts and abuse and that still goes from one relationship to another? So someone that has generational hurt and been through a lot of abuse, but they hop from one relationship to another to sort of fix it. And if we could just sort of concise the answers, just to get through the next couple of ones, inshallah. For the Nasir.
I heard generational trauma and going in and out of relationships.
Yeah. What do you advise someone that's in a pattern of doing that?
The question?
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if he hears me.
It's like probably going in and out for him.
Okay. All right. How do you help a loved one to... Brother Nasir, can you hear me?
I think the gist of what I got, and please, I think the best thing someone can do with a relationship is work on themselves. And I think the part of what is being said about trusting yourself and your intuition is trusting the work that you're putting in.
Brother Nasir, we're losing you. So we're just going to pause you for a second. We're going to pause you for just a second, brother. Okay. All right. So we're losing Brother Nasir. But Ziad, I wanted to talk a little bit about this in regards to how do you help a loved one see that they're in a toxic relationship or someone that's in a pattern of that. And Brother Nasir,
that can be difficult. I think that can be very challenging. That can be very sensitive. Oftentimes, as human beings, we are not always willing to accept that from someone else. Someone may be thinking that they're coming from a negative point of view or a jealous point of view. I think that you with your circle, you have to trust your circle. You have to trust your family when they tell you that it seems as though your behaviors are changing. The person that I knew before isn't who I see now. I think you just continue to, I would say just really, and I'm not a clinician. So for me, I would just say that you continue to love them through it, because at the end, if they do decide to leave, they're going to need you. They're going to need your support. They're going to need for you not to be judgmental toward how long they may have stayed or what they may have been endured during that time. Just be their ear, and once they realize that, because oftentimes for some people, it takes years, it took me 7 months. It took people years, and so it could take for some people years to really see that this is toxic. And sometimes they could see it through their children. Their children might finally see some things, you just never know. So I just would be there if this is your friend or your family member, the same way that my family was for me. Like, we love you, and know that you love yourself, and we're proud of you, and it will be okay. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown up in my life and my son's life in a way that I am so grateful. And it's just important for you to value yourself through the whole process. Just love yourself, and in time, hopefully, inshallah, that person will see it, but just love them through it.
So I want to ask an important question. I'm not sure, Brother Nasir, if you can hear us yet, but this is important. This one is oftentimes the story of Aisha is brought in whenever violence is involved in a marriage. I'm not sure. What is your thought about this? Aisha is brought up in terms of when people are violent. Brother Nasir, have you heard of this?
Yeah, what I heard is when violence is involved. And I'm not sure if what the question was, but I used to work within a domestic violence shelter, and when violence is involved, it's and so I think you obviously you desire for the sister or brother in that situation to leave the situation, but what I know from experience is that that's not always what happens. And so, again, I apologize I didn't hear all of the question, but I think the best thing we can do is support sisters who are in that situation without judgment, and create systems there to help them. Right? We gotta create systems, opportunities for them that if they need a place to go to, they can go to. If they need access to capital, if they need access to money, they get access to money, right? And I think it's very important. I think it's very, very important in this time in particular for us to create these systems for sisters.
Yeah.
For our community, period, but particularly for sisters. Because if you're already in a relationship where you don't feel secure, and now we see what's going on externally with these colonizers, they just feeling themselves. So in the micro level, you don't feel secure, and on the macro, you don't feel secure on what you're turning on the TV and seeing, and then in the house that you're turning on the TV in, on the micro, you don't feel secure. We need systems in place, and that's the thing that I think, unfortunately, our community is not giving too much time to. You gotta give systems. You put systems and knowledge in people's hands or access, they'll make the right decision.
I think
it may not be the decision you want them to make, but it'll be the right decision for them.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, I was just going to reiterate that that's why I really believe wholeheartedly about entrepreneurship for women. It's very important, because once you understand that you can lean on yourself to build your business and create income for yourself, you will not feel trapped to be beholden in a relationship or just in your situation. It will allow you to never become a statistic. And for me, that's why entrepreneurship is so important to me and so passionate for me because alhamdulillah, because I am an entrepreneur, I did not feel beholden to a situation because I create streams of income for myself, because sometimes economically women stay for that, the fear of poverty. A lot of women stay in abusive relationships because they're afraid of being impoverished with their children, which is a very real fear. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I absolutely and I appreciate the
Can
questions.
I,
I don't, sorry, Brother Nasir. Brother Nasir, we can only hear you in and out.
okay, no problem.
Okay, so let me just preface this last question, see if I could bring you in, which is how do we attract healthy relationships? So we now have went through all of this. How now can we choose mates that really align with our purpose, our values, our goals, and make better choices? Brother Nasir, can you come in for this one?
Yeah, I think the way you do it is by being helpful and help to yourself, right? Because when you're in the right environment, in a healthy and helpful environment, you'll be around people that are attractive or that are potential complements to your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
Some things aren't that complex. Some things
so
are. But I mean, when you start cutting out certain people, places, and things, you start exposing yourself to a different crowd.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is so true.
It's really that simple. It's really that simple.
But if you can hear me right now, let me just make this one point on the last point. I stress everybody to spend some time, look up complex trauma, right? I think that's very important. Just do your research about complex trauma. I think that's an important thing to study, especially when it comes to violence and trauma.
Okay. Thank you for that resource. SubhanAllah. Well, I wanted to just send some gratitude. Thank you guys. This was it was a tough live because we had so many technology issues, but hey, that happens. And we appreciate Brother Nasir. We appreciate you so deeply for coming in at 2 a.m. from Kuwait, despite the technology, and staying with it. If I was you, I'd have been like, forget it. So thank you, brother. We appreciate you. If you can hear me or read my lips.
So I'm gonna act like I didn't hear you say. I'm gonna act like I didn't hear you say you appreciate me, so I can hear it again. That's what you said.
No, that's the one you heard.
Nah, it was my pleasure.
Tabarakallah. Tabarakallah. Well, Ziada, thank you so much, sister. Thank you so much for sharing your light and your energy and your story and being vulnerable. I honor you. I see you. I appreciate you on so many levels. May Allah reward you and elevate you.
I mean. May this be helpful for any woman, any man, any human being, to find your inner strength and to radically love yourself and don't feel bad. Hold your head up high and know that the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks that the earth is spacious. So you will definitely find someone else. Like, don't even worry about that. Like, it's plenty of people in the world and plenty of people will definitely marry
a cat.
I'm
I always
telling
tell you that, Ziada.
They will. And they'll definitely marry a woman who has children. Like, I never even buy into that. So what's for me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring to me. So I don't even buy into that. So I just think you to just remember to love yourself, and it may take some time, but know that inshallah, with Allah's help, like we speak about, Allah speaks about the unseen. That's where true faith comes in. Not knowing sometimes really what that path is going to look like, but know that Allah will never forsake you. He will never forsake you. And I can truly tell you that if you remember that, then you will be okay.
Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. Brother Nasir, are you here? No, he's not here. Okay. Do you have any final words, brother?
I apologize for the connection. I appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully we can work something out where I can do this again and give more detail to the things that can be techniques for people to walk away with. Because I think that's the critical part in this, is giving people tangible techniques and belief sets they use as they navigate unhelpful relationships. That's what I would say. I'll put some things on my Instagram, and I'll share them as well in the feed as well.
Alhamdulillah.
We appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for your diligence and your hard work. And mashallah, I would also recommend that if you guys have not heard his audio podcast, it is on Spotify and Apple and Google. It is dynamic, and he breaks down a lot of these sort of techniques there, and it's very quick, clear quality. SubhanAllah. Even though it took us 5 attempts, I just want to say that it took us 5 attempts, but it's clear quality. You know, so alhamdulillah. Just like he didn't even catch it, Ziada.
He did. He totally did.
Mashallah. Okay, you guys, thank you so much. Mashallah.
I'm seeing a lot of smiling. I see a lot of smiling. I can't wait to hear the repeat on this.
Sabir got a lot of jokes. Sabir has a lot of jokes tonight.
Tabarakallah, tabarakallah. Okay, you guys, it's been a lot of fun, even though we navigated a tough topic. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for keeping it light and keeping it funny and keeping it healthy discussions that we can take away. All right, you guys. Thank you to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast audience. MashaAllah. We apologize if we overlooked any of your questions. We were so engaged. I was so engaged here, and I don't, you know how I am with the comments, y'all. So I'm not always on it as I should be, but subhanAllah. This Thursday, we're coming back. We're going to have a culminating ending topic on the Divorce and Healing series, and we're going to be joined with Brother Khalil Ismail. Many of you guys have asked for Dr. Khalil to come back. You know, Ziada, they call him Dr. Khalil. Oh. Dr. Khalil to come back, so he's going to be joining us back on the couch. But thank you so much for being here. Inshallah, we'll see you guys on Thursday. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
How do I end the live? Somebody asked me to bring that back, so I just said it just one time.
Okay.